So Unframed began as a creative experiment, an artist-run project engaging emerging and early career artists, particularly those in the Sunshine Coast region. We commissioned them to make new work and then install that work in pedestrian traffic areas around Coolum Beach. 2016, which is our second year running, we focused more on multidiscipline collaborations and encouraged artists to explore working with new technologies. So as a result, we had 14 artworks, 28 artists involved across 1 week over 6 different locations, and we had sound artists, light installation, projection, film, performance, 2-dimensional and spoken word. And so this short documentary is about the artist's story and the process of making work and gaining an insight into their practice, and hopefully then having an understanding of how important it is to support artists at this early stage in their career.
Elemental art, which is based on the periodic table of elements, was the project, or is the project, that joining art and science, but also school and community. And the idea of the Laneways project this year was not only to get the school out of its position, which is not in town, into the community, but to get the community into the exhibition. The idea of connecting community and high school, everyone via art, is just it's a really great, it's a great moment where there's creativity and it's not completely written or spoken how it should be.
So the work I made for Unframed 2016 is called Paramon, and it's basically a parody of Pokemon Go, the game everyone's got on their phones. So when that came out, I kind of liked the idea how everyone was going around looking for these invisible creatures in the streets and in the parks and things, and kind of how they'd immigrated over here, but they weren't really here, so it's like a digital immigrant. And then obviously lots of stuff is in the news all the time about people being against immigration of real people coming into different countries here and all over the globe. So I wanted to kind of look at that idea of digital immigrants against real immigrants and stuff. So I made these creatures, like I said, they're a parody of Pokemon Go, but they kind of symbolise maybe some fears or paranoias people have about immigrants and stuff.
Using the girls as sort of like reflecting of the light, so we had really harsh light, and then during the editing we'd skip it until it sort of like went to really dark, so it was like this contrast of sort of, it was that inner torment of being frustrated with like light dark. That was sort of the main thing.
I think we found heaps of like little movements we wanted to incorporate, which worked with the words, and then once we got into the atmosphere, I guess that kind of really, it all just fell together.
Coolum Unframed has sort of, it's a really good opportunity for artists like us. And it's, once again, like it's pushing that concept that we were talking about and not having the opportunity as artists to really get out there. So it's really good. There needs to be more.
As a child of the internet, having grown up connected to the world in an abstract way through data, I'm obsessed with the web and born digital content. My practice is particularly interested in image-rich technologies and the way global media communication can be sampled, organised and considered in new philosophical and political terms. I use the internet, which has normalised the act of collecting and compiling information, to preserve and create found images and raw material. The aim is to engage with the cultural space and aesthetics of the internet as a subject, a material and a tool of artistic production. I made my work for Unframed, the uncanniness of rendered ghost, while in Mexico undertaking a residency. So one of the only ways I can think about how to reflect Coolum Beach was by using a networked surf cam to capture beachgoers at leisure. This turned out to be a happy accident, as there is some form of authenticity in the low resolution imagery captured. The uncanniness of the images, at times the people documented appear more mythical creature than human, sits at the intersection of the digital and the physical and the real and the imagined, something I'm very interested in exploring.
Essentially, I gave the participating artists of motion capture one prerequisite, and that was the idea that the body must move. So they could interpret that any way they like. I think what I was trying to get across is that we don't necessarily need a script, or we don't need words to convey or tell a story, that it can be done with the body and the everyday gesture. So I think it's a nice opportunity for Toowoomba artists to engage with Sunshine Coast artists. There was a lot of integrative practices within the project of motion capture, which we submitted to Unframed, and it's nice that that collaboration can further itself on the Sunshine Coast with other artists in a public platform and forum.
I chose to do this piece for Unframed. Being a local in this area, I often see the Brahminy kites down the beach, and I was down the beach thinking about what I wanted to produce, and one was hovering over my head, and thought it'd be a great opportunity to replicate one of the local native birds. Timber's pretty rough and ready, which is what I like. I love the fact that there's knots and there's saw marks through the timber. Gives it a lot of character, really helps bring the subject to life. But essentially, working the stain through many layers, I'm able to build up some photorealistic tones.
So I originally had the idea for the soundscape about a year ago. I had this idea to sample the sounds that I was hearing all the time, and then trying to make them into some kind of piece. In my mind, it questions whether I could make something from absolutely nothing. It was just a kind of incidental noise and sounds that I was hearing every day, and I made them into beats, and I think that they then had more value because they made me feel a different way about the sounds.
So I'm making a lot of public performance drawing work that really only exist for the time that I'm making it. It doesn't really have a long-term after effect. It's all experiential and temporal. Everyone gets to watch the evolution of a drawing appear. So in a lot of ways, not only me, but everybody here gets to see the artwork grow at the same time. So it becomes a shared experience.
Yeah, I think from what we had as a seed of an idea, it really did evolve into something that was the pure essence of collaboration. Yeah.
Because Ben had such rich imagery and so much movement, like to just tap something on would have really flattened it. So then just sort of started exploring how to make the letters move, and then played around with stop motion. And then started with text, and then just got really into it and went more illustrative and figurative drawings and things. So it was excellent.